These books were so freaking good. How are you guys doing today? Happy October 1st. I feel like October 1st is like one of the better firsts. I feel like October 1st like means a lot in a lot of different ways. So today's a special day is what I'm trying to say. So today I have my September wrap up and my October TBR. So I will be going over the books that I read in September, letting you guys know my thoughts, no spoilers of course. And then I'll also be going over my TBR for the month of October, which is my to be read list. This is a list of books, an outrageously long list of books that I hope to read this month and I plan to read this month, and I never actually hit my reading goals, but that's fine. I just like to be a little bit, I like to set high goals for myself. So anyway, if you guys are new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. If you guys want to add me on Goodreads, I'll have it linked down below. I will also have all of these books linked down below in case you guys are interested in reading any of them, and maybe we can read them together. I want to start off with my wrap up. So I used to separate these videos, but as of recently I feel like combining them is better just because I'm not reading like 10 books a month. So first things first, September started off amazing. Like I was reading so much. I had 3 books read in like the first week of September, and then a lot of stuff happened and basically I didn't read until like September 28th. So I read 4 books this month. I completed 4 books. I'm partially into another book, but we'll get to that. So the first book that I read this month was After We Fell by Anna Todd. I loved this book. I will go ahead and tell you that every single book that I read this month I rated 5 stars, which is a pretty big deal. Like I'm pretty generous with my ratings, but like 5 stars every single one. I had a good reading month even though I only read 4 books. But this is After We Fell. This is the 3rd book in the After series. I am obsessed with this series. I loved it. I loved all of the books. I loved all of the movies, and I even went to the premiere of the After Ever Happy movie, which is the movie that just came out. I went to the theater and my boyfriend went with me. He was so kind, so I didn't have to go by myself. Kristen also went to go see it at the same time, but we're in different states, so we kind of saw it together, but like not really, you know. So anyway, After We Fell was fantastic. This is a huge book. This is by far the longest book that I've ever read. This book is 834 pages, so yeah. 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. With all books, definitely look up trigger warnings if you think that you have certain topics that you don't want to expose yourself to. A lot of sensitive topics in this series and in this book, so just be aware. Also, this series is 18+, so just wanted to throw that out there. That brings me to the second book that I read in September, After Ever Happy. This is the movie that just came out. I actually think it might be on Netflix now. It's definitely like streamable on Amazon. I think you have to pay for it, but it might be on Netflix. I don't know. But I loved this book as well. 5 stars. It was fantastic. I finished this book within 30 minutes of the movie starting. I was like cranking through this book. I definitely put myself in a time crunch, but I bought the tickets weeks in advance, so I wasn't gonna miss the movie, and I needed to finish the book before the movie started. So I finished it, and then literally within 5 minutes, like I was getting dressed to leave to go to the movie theater. No joke. I loved this book. This one wasn't quite as long as the other one. I actually had to put a little tab here because I didn't finish annotating this book. I made it I don't know, I guess like the last like 50 pages I did not annotate. As you can see, there's no tabs because I was running out of time, and if it takes me a long time to read while annotating, it just takes me longer because you gotta highlight, underline, tab, write stuff. So I made a mark to remind myself to go back and annotate the last 50 pages of this book because I didn't have time. So the After series is incredible. I am obsessed with it. It's definitely very toxic, so keep that in mind, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The 3rd book that I read in September was Archer's Voice. This book is outstanding. This is my favorite book of the year so far, and I've read a lot of books that I love. I loved this book. Incredible. You guys need to read this. I feel like I couldn't tell you much about the After series because it's the 3rd and 4th book in the series, so I can't really talk about it without giving you spoilers. This book, however, I feel like reading the back of this is really important, and trust me, this book, you need to read it. It's incredible. I'm speechless when it comes to this book. So I'll go ahead and read the back. There's 2 other books in this like series. I don't think it's like, I don't know if they're like interconnected or what, but this is like the first book in some series. I forget what it's called. So I was gonna read the back of this book, but there's some words in the description and I don't know that I can say them on YouTube. So basically this is about a girl. I forgot her name. Bria? I think her name is, what is her name? Bree. Her name is Bree, and she has a very traumatic past and she's trying to escape it. You learn very early on what this traumatic past is. Very triggering, so again, look up trigger warnings. But she's trying to escape her life and her traumatic past, so she ends up in this random town in Maine, and she ends up meeting someone named Archer Hale, and he is an interesting fellow. He doesn't communicate with anybody, and once she meets him, her world pretty much turns upside down. This is a romance book, but it's considered fiction. There's a lot more to it than just romance. So I love this. I thought it was incredible. I don't want to say much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but this is a book that I could see myself rereading. I can't say it enough. You need to read this book right now. It was so good. And finally, the last book that I read in September is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in the Brutal Birthright series, and it was amazing. This is like a dark mafia romance book, so I was not sure how I was gonna feel about that. Usually I like the happy like rom-coms, or like, I don't know. I didn't know how I was gonna feel about a mafia romance, but I loved it. I don't know how much darker I could go than this, but I'm willing to try. But I loved this book. 5 stars. It was incredible. This is dual POV. This is about Ada and Callum, and it's so good. I just like, I'll read the back to you. I feel like I can't read the whole back. Okay, let's see. It says, he's no Prince Charming. Callum Griffin is the heir to the Irish Mafia. He's ruthless, arrogant, and he wants to kill me. We got off on the wrong foot when I set a very small fire in his house. Our families believe a marriage pact is the only thing that will prevent all-out warfare. I think I might need to murder him while he sleeps. This would all be a lot easier if Callum wasn't so good looking, but I've got a lockbox around my heart because even if I'm forced to marry him, I could never love a brutal prince. Trust me, once again, you need to read this book. Again, trigger warning, quite a few topics in here to be aware of, but this book was so good. I already ordered the 2nd book in the series. I previously purchased the entire Kingmaker series by Sophie Lark, which I learned after buying them that it's a spin-off to this series. So the Brutal Birthright series is about a bunch of characters, and then the Kingmaker series is about like their kids. So I had to start with this book, and I loved it so much. There's also discreet covers. They have discreet covers for the first 2 books in the Brutal Birthright series, and I think the other ones should be coming out soon. I need all of the discreet covers. But the Kingmaker series also has discreet covers, so I have all of those. I actually bought the first 3, and then Sophie Lark sent me the last 2, and they were signed copies, and I was shook. So shout out to Sophie Lark. She's literally amazing, and I'm so excited to continue reading this series. It was so good. If you have never read like a mafia romance book, definitely read that book. I feel like it's a great introductory, and it was so interesting, so good. Loved everything about it. It was intense. I was like reading on the edge of my seat, like I need to flip through these pages faster. It was so good. And the book that I'm currently reading is Ricochet. I have been reading this book for like months at this point. I only have 50 pages left, so I'm almost done with it. I was trying to finish it before I filmed this video, but I just wasn't feeling motivated enough. I promised Kristen that I would finish this book like 2 days ago, and I still haven't, but I'm gonna finish it today. I actually am. It's October 1st as I'm filming this, so I'm actually gonna finish it today. And this is the 2nd book in the Addicted series, so yeah. I feel like, I don't know, I still feel very like indifferent about this series. Like sometimes I love it and sometimes I'm bored out of my mind. So I'm gonna keep pushing on because everyone says the first 2 books are like not that great, but then once you get to the 3rd book it's like incredible. So that's what I'm hoping for. It better be, because I ordered the 3rd book. So yeah. Moving on to my October TBR. I have a super long October TBR. Definitely not going to read all of these books, but I'm going to try my best. I have a lot of physical copies. I ordered a few books as well, so I think I mentioned a couple of them already. And then I also have some books on my Kindle that I want to read. So I actually will talk about an audiobook first. So I actually started an audiobook today, and it was on Spotify. I didn't realize that it was an audiobook, but let me find my phone so I can tell you. My phone has been sitting here the whole time. I'm so sorry. I'll tell you what it's called. So the book is called Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual, and it's by Jocko Willink. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. I don't know why I decided to start listening to this book. I was looking up Jocko because my brother like talks about him a lot, and I see like Discipline Equals Freedom. Like I've seen him do like post stuff about it, so I was like, oh, let me like look him up. And I stumbled upon the like audiobook on Spotify. It's like, it looks like an album with a bunch of songs. I don't know if that's normal for audiobooks. I've never listened to one until today. I started this one, and so far it's really good. It's definitely like very like motivational and like intense. So it's not like your typical like fiction book, but I really like it so far. Right now I'm on Until the End. That's like the song that I'm on. You just listen to it in order. But that's the first book on my TBR, and I'm excited to have an audiobook on here. And my mom and my brother actually just completed the Ironman 70.3, which is like the half Ironman in Augusta, and it was very motivating to say the least. And so I messaged my brother and I was like, hey, like you and mom really motivated me. Like I've been, you know, doing treadmill workouts and stuff. We recently got a treadmill, and he was like, you should sign up for the Gate River Run, and that way you have like a goal to work towards. So I was like, that's a great idea. So I looked it up, and ironically enough, registration opened up today, October 1st, and I was like, okay, this is like meant to be. Stuff like this always happens to me, and I'm like, all right. Every time I notice these like weird coincidences, I'm like, this means that I'm on the right path. At least that's what I tell myself. So I signed up for it. Jarvis also signed up for it. So I have 6 months to train or prepare for the Gate River Run. It's a 15K race. So it's 9.3 miles, and it's around Jacksonville. And I've done it before. I did it twice in high school, but I like played softball in high school, and I was a lot more physically fit then than I am now. So I have 6 months to prepare, so I thought I would share that with you guys as well, so you guys can kind of follow me along on this journey. I was thinking about, sorry I'm going off on a tangent, but I was thinking about filming like a vlog, like a you know, just like updates, like starting today, because I plan on doing a treadmill workout today. So starting today, kind of doing a little intro, and then just kind of like updating you guys along the journey, and then ending the video with the actual race. Obviously not the whole thing, but and then kind of talk to you guys after the fact and give you my thoughts. I don't know, it would be a long video in the making, but I think it would be fun. Even if I don't post it to YouTube, I think that would be good for me to have and just kind of like look back on my progress. So let me know if you guys would want me to post that to YouTube. I don't know, I may or may not, I don't know, but I think I'll do it. I think I'm gonna film a little intro today after I'm done filming and editing my regular content. But yeah, Discipline Equals Freedom, Jocko Willink. Check it out. I don't know, maybe it'll spark something if you're looking for a little bit of motivation. So anyway, moving on. The rest of my TBR is it's interesting. And normally I read a lot of romance. That's pretty much all I read, but I have a few fantasy books and a few like fall vibes books on my October TBR list, obviously. I will say I have 2 Kindle books that I'm gonna read within like the next 2 days because they are by Melissa Grace. I talked about the series last month, the Midnight in Dallas series. I read the first one. It's called Home is Where You Are. I loved it. It was so good. Such a good rom-com. I totally recommend reading it. I'm gonna read the second book. I'm gonna start that today, and then the third book comes out October 4th. So I need to read that before October 4th so that I can post my review for you guys on Instagram, because Melissa was so kind and actually gifted me all 3 of the books on my Kindle, and I thought that was so cool. So yeah, I got like an arc of the third one. So I'm planning on, not planning, I will be reading those 2 books in the next like 2-3 days, and I'm so excited. So you guys can follow me on Instagram to like get my updates on that. Also Goodreads, I post reviews on every single book that I read on Goodreads, so make sure you add me. It's linked down below. So I have both of those on my Kindle. I recently got Kindle Unlimited because there's like so many books on Kindle Unlimited, and I need to start reading more books on my Kindle because books are expensive. So moving on to my physical TBR. I have to flip these upside down 1 second. Here's a little peek at my physical TBR, just so you know. So the first book on my TBR is Crave. This is by Tracy Wolff. This is the first book in a series, and it's about vampires. I'm fairly certain this is a YA series. I've heard really good things about it. I think there's like 5 books out, and I think they're coming out with a few more. So it's a pretty big series, but the cover definitely gives me Twilight vibes. I'm just gonna throw that out there. But I really don't know much of what this is about. I read the inside of the sleeve and it sounds really interesting. So yeah, I'll go ahead and read it to you. It says, "My whole world changed when I stepped inside the academy. Nothing is right about this place or the other students in it. Here I am, a mere mortal among gods or monsters. I still can't decide which of these warring factions I belong to, if I belong at all. I only know the one thing that unites them is their hatred of me." Then there's Jackson Vega, a vampire with deadly secrets who hasn't felt anything for 100 years, but there's something about him that calls to me, something broken in him that somehow fits with what's broken in me, which could spell death for all of us. Because Jackson walled himself off for a reason, and now someone wants to wake a sleeping monster, and I'm wondering if I was brought here intentionally as the bait. Sounds pretty interesting to me. So that's on my TBR. Next I have the cheat sheet. This is a rollover from last month. I didn't get a chance to read this last month, but it is pretty short. It's a closed-door romance rom-com, so nothing spicy here, but it's about a football player, I'm guessing, because there's a football like field goal post and a guy with a football uniform on. And football reminds me of fall. Football just recently started, so it made sense for my fall TBR. Next we have The Ex-Hex. I tried to read this last year. I think this is the book that got me into Book of the Month. I canceled my Book of the Month subscription like 6 months ago just because I was not reading fast enough to be getting a book every single month. But this was the first book that I got for Book of the Month, and I tried to read it. I read like 2 chapters and then I was tapping out. I'm pretty sure this is in 3rd person. Is it? I think it is. I could be wrong, but I just was not in the right reading space to be reading this last year. I started reading last year in like August, so I was still pretty new to reading. I still am, but I think I can take on the challenge of The Ex-Hex this month. I don't really know what it's about, so I guess we'll kind of just go into that blindly. Next we have Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. This is a very spicy book. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, every time I hear anything about Penelope Douglas, it's always like trigger warning, 18+. So again, I have no idea what this is about, but it kind of gave me fall vibes, just like the cover. I don't know why, but I was like, I feel like I could read this in October. So we have Punk 57. The next book I'm a little bit worried for. I'm actually a lot worried for. We have ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is a fantasy book. It's the first book in a series, and I'm scared because I've never read a fantasy book before, and I know that there's like some world building, and I feel like people don't love the first book a lot, but then the second book everyone is obsessed with. So I'm gonna try to read this and get through it, and then we'll see how things go from there. Following that, I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This I have heard mixed things on. I think this might be YA, but Again, I don't really know too much of what this is about. I feel like it must be about a murder. It says it's a perfect nail-biting mystery. So it's been a while since I've read a mystery book. I think the last one I read was like January, and it was The Guest List, and I did not love it. So I'm excited to read this one. This is a series. I think there's 3 books. I think it's a trilogy. So we have that. Next we have It Ends With Us. This will be my first reread. I read this book last August and I loved it. This was the second Colleen Hoover book I ever read. Incredible, and I'm gonna read it again because It Starts With Us comes out this month and I'm so excited. It's the sequel to this book, and if you guys haven't read this book already, read it now so that you guys can like immediately read It Starts With Us. I think it comes out October 20 something, so you have a couple weeks to read this book before the next one comes out. I have it pre-ordered. I actually have 3 versions of it pre-ordered, don't tell Jarvis, but I have the paperback, the hardcover, and like a special edition like UK version with like sprayed edges. I'm so excited. So yeah, It Ends With Us and It Starts With Us are both on my TBR. Also, the second Brutal Birthright series book is on my TBR. It's called Stolen Heir, I think. Let me pull up my Amazon order. I ordered them yesterday. Yes, Stolen Heir. And then Addicted for Now is the 3rd book in the Addicted series. And I also ordered the discreet cover of Brutal Prince. That's the one that I read this month. And I read it in like a day, basically like 24 hours. So it was that good. So go check out Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. Anyway, next we have One of Us is Lying. This is a book that I've had on my TBR before. It sounds really interesting. There's a show, a TV show, and there's also a second book that's already out. So I don't know if it's just a duology or if there are going to be more books, but it's kind of like another one of those mysteries. And I also believe that's a YA series as well. YA being young adult. I don't know if I said that or not. I feel like sometimes I like say things like TBR, YA, closed door, like, and sometimes not everyone knows what those words mean because I didn't know what they meant either. So I try my best to remember to explain. Next we have The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I love this cover. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that there's peaches on it, but I love this cover. This just looks like a good book to me. I don't really know what it's about, but it sounds really good. So I decided to buy it. I guess we'll see how that goes. We're getting towards the end of my TBR. These are kind of like lower priority ones. I kind of went in order, a little bit in order of like high priority to like lower priority, only because like these ones aren't as like time sensitive to me. I still want to read them really bad and I'm so excited to, but time sensitive, you know, I guess the front ones were a little bit more time sensitive. Next we have Vampire Academy. I didn't read this book last month. I wanted to read this before the show came out, but I didn't. The show came out September 15th. I watched the trailer for the show and it looked not good. I don't know. It did not interest me. So that really put like a thumbs down on my motivation to read this book. I tried reading this again last year, but I just could not get into it. There's so much like weird words that I couldn't pronounce. I didn't know what it meant. So yeah, we're gonna give this another try at some point so we can watch the show. But I've heard great things about the series. And it's a long series and I have the first 3 books in the series, so I have to read it. But we'll see when we get there. We'll get there. Next we have Terms and Conditions. I actually started this book. I read the first like 2 chapters and then I stopped. This was in a time where I had like 5 different books going at once, so yeah. I spread myself a little too thin in my opinion and I got overwhelmed. So I want to read this book this month, but again, it's not like an October book. The 3rd book in the Dreamland Billionaire series comes out in January or March, early next year. So I have time to read that book. That's the 2nd book. The 1st book is Terms and Conditions. I loved Terms and Conditions, so I'm excited to read this one. I got a little bit overwhelmed and ahead of myself by starting like 5 books at once. So Terms and Conditions. Then we have a Jenny Proctor book. This is called Love Unexpected. This is the 2nd book in the series. I forget what the series is called. I first one and it was so cute. This again is closed door romance, so nothing spicy, but I still was like so attached to the characters and I felt like really connected and I could feel the love, if you know what I mean. The first one is called Love Redesigned. So this is Love Unexpected. I can't wait to read it. It's, you know, I don't know, again, this has been on a few TBRs of mine. I just always pick like 20 books and I end up reading like 5. So yeah. I feel good about this month though. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling motivated. That audiobook I was listening to earlier was getting me in a motivated mood, so I'm excited to start making healthier decisions, start working out more, training for my river run, and reading more, working harder, just like doing better. Less procrastination, less laziness, and more productivity. That's what I am here for. And the final book on my October TBR is The Float Plan. I read the second book in the series before I read the first. This is, I forget, it's the Something Sisters series. But I read The Sweet Spot, which was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I stayed up till like 4 a.m. reading it. And this is the first book, and the one that I read is technically the sister of this girl. Well, she is the sister of this girl, but in my head, this one is the sister of the Sweet Spot girl, if that makes sense, because I read them out of order, which is kind of triggering to me, but it is what it is. I didn't know. So I ordered The Float Plan because this is, again, the first book in the series. It's not like, I don't think it really matters. It kind of does. Like, I know sort of the gist of this girl's story. Her name, what's her name? I keep calling her this girl, Anna. I kind of know the gist of Anna's story based on the second book, but I'm excited to learn more about it and experience it. So that's the last book on my TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I talked about a lot of books. I feel like I talked a lot. I feel very passionately about books. So I am actually about to, like, as we speak, like after I finish filming this, I'm gonna go reorganize my entire bookshelf and I'm gonna film it for you guys, and I'm so excited. We're gonna clean my shelves, take all of the books off, reorganize them, and it's gonna be great. So like I said, add me on Goodreads. It's linked down below. All of these books will be linked down below, along with my playlist of book related YouTube videos if you guys want more, because I post more than just book videos. If you're new to my channel, I mainly post like beauty and like makeup videos, but I also love posting about books and vlogs and lifestyle stuff too, so there's kind of a mix of everything here. So anyway, I love you all so much. Don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!